wants you in life everywhere you go.
I don't see the treasurer.
Good morning. It is November 15th. It's Tuesday. And do we have Commissioner Peck on the phone? Okay, so we have two commissioners in-house, Commissioner Mullen and myself. We have the administrator and we have the clerk at the board. And this time I'll call the meeting to order. If you'd please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, first item on the agenda is the approval of the October 25th Commissioner meeting minutes. Is there any additions or corrections?
No.
Okay, next we'll go down to office business vouchers. I believe there's two vouchers.
Yes. Move for approval of fund expenditures in a total amount of $1,279,157.99 as presented, and note that it has been reviewed and signed by two representatives of the Auditor's Office and the County Administrator.
I second. There's been a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Move for approval of salary clearing payroll and emergency management payroll in a total amount of $1,106,653.35 as presented, and note that it has been reviewed and signed by two representatives of the Auditor's Office.
I second. There's been a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, next we'll move down to the approval of the consent agenda, and I believe there are 8 items on the consent agenda.
Yes, move for approval of consent agenda items 1 through 8.
I second. There's been a motion and a second for the 8 items on the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we're down to public comment. Is there anybody in the room for public comment? Anybody on the phone, Mr. Davidson?
Nobody on the phone, Chairman.
Nobody on the phone?
What I wanted to talk about, public comment, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is there a county ordinance saying you only get to speak for 3 minutes if you've got something to say instead of just rattling on?
I don't believe so, no.
So then why is it 3 minutes? I mean, last week, you had somebody up here that took at least 2 times, and he probably could have spoke longer than that to get his point across of what was going on. And I think most people can be done in 3 minutes, but there are exceptions to the rule. Instead of having a buzzer going off saying you're done, go sit down, and come back at the end of the meeting and pick back up again. Thank you.
We'll look at that. Anybody else for public comment? All right. Seeing none, we'll go down to the Commissioner Administrator updates. Mr. Davidson?
Yes, this week I had a meeting with Todd Harris and Betsy Kreisel of the Franklin County Weed Board. That was followed with an invitation to one of their board meetings, which I plan to attend. In addition, I had several budget meetings with various staff and elected officials. Tim Anderson from the Auditor's Office has been instrumental and useful in these discussions, and Sam from Human Resources has been very helpful facilitating just yesterday a discussion with Kevin Wesley and Tom Menke, 2 of our bargaining unit negotiators. I also attended a Ben Franklin Behavioral Health Advisory Committee meeting along with our sheriff that was held over at Benton County. That was followed by a meeting with Matt Rasmussen about the behavioral health facility and also an update on the plans for the remodel of the Ben Franklin Juvenile Detention Facility.
Thank you. Commissioner Mullen?
Pretty light week last week. Just met with the Ben Franklin Transit on the regular board meeting, and that is about it.
Thank you. Again, I was on the Ben Franklin Transit, and I'm going to try to make a point of meeting with the new administrator about they're moving ahead with purchasing of new buses, the big buses, which I know we're going to need some, but I want to know what the long-range plans are. I thought we were going to be moving into some smaller buses, so I'm going to try to make it a point of meeting with her on that. The Columbia River County's caucus meeting was yesterday. I got in late and I had to leave because of a funeral, and I'd just like to say like to give my condolences to the Person family. There's longstanding people out there. Their mother passed away, Louise. So I attended her funeral yesterday. And then the agenda meeting, and I'd just like to thank Mr. Davidson. We've been having these agenda meetings every Thursday, but I want to thank you because I'm hearing from many departments in the courthouse that you're here every morning at 7. You're meeting with them, and there is nothing but positive information coming back to me. So thank you for all your efforts here at Franklin County.
Thank
So-
you as well for me. I do appreciate it. Thank you.
So from there, we'll move to administration office business. Mr. Davidson.
First item I'd like to discuss is the commissioner meetings dates for next year. You have an insert there that has, we had to kind of coordinate this because planning uses this room at night. And so I think there's time for just some basic discussion. You don't have to make any firm, hard-coded decisions. And I think you probably should even throw in the comment that we just received from the public about the time for the meetings for public comment.
Yes.
I think that in the past, when it's been published in a published agenda for 3 minutes, then that almost kind of becomes kind of a rule in itself because it's on the agenda. If you guys want to have more time, there's nothing in that I know of that limits that. We'll just remove it or say something differently there. If you want us to work on that to try to allow you to have more flexibility, just to have it open in case there's an important topic, we can certainly work on that. So if that's the,
I would like, just to add there, I would just like to say, if they had something as to which that man had, which was a presentation on what was happening to his land, I think that's worthy of hearing. If they're
Quite-
just wanting to come in and scold a commissioner, I think we limit them to 3 minutes, and 3 minutes is long enough to scold a commissioner.
fair enough. Yeah, so, we'll work on that and get some suggestive language up to you that would allow greater flexibility, because I can totally see that. I was here to experience that last week, and so we'll look at that. Also, Commissioner, you mentioned to me just this morning, and I did not think about this when Karen and I were developing this, but you said that there has been some public comment about the additional.
Lots of public comment. We have a lot of people that-
night meetings.
Yeah, a
Night
lot of
meetings.
comments, and a lot of people have inquired about how do we get more night meetings, because a lot of the people in our county work during the day, and they can't attend this 9 o'clock meeting. And therefore, in order to get access, I think night meetings have really helped them attend, and I think that monthly night meetings might be very well received.
So you want us to work on that, and we'll come, along with the language about the public comment, you want us to work on identifying monthly night meetings for your consideration next week?
Yeah,
Put-
and
put-
I wouldn't even mind putting it out there for the public comment, so public could comment on that if they would like to see nightly meetings every month so that they could attend. There is a lot of growth going on, a lot of people want to discuss how we're going to handle growth, the roads, everything else, and I think it's time we listen.
Okay. Then there's also the two scheduling conflicts. July 4th falls on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
So do we cancel the meeting for that week, or do we move it to Wednesday?
Right now, I would say it would be hard to cancel because we don't know what kind of packet we're going to have for that week, and I would hate to cancel it and have a great big amount of information we got to go over. I would like to tackle them weekly by weekly so we don't get too.
Oh, so move it to the 5th?
Yes, I would agree with that. Commissioner Mullen?
I would say tentatively the 5th. Yeah.
Okay.
If there's not a lot of,
It sounds like we got consensus of the board that you'd like to have a meeting that week, so we'll work on that. So maybe on Thursday. And then the same applies to December. You don't see the date here because it's already been removed. Help me, what was it, the 26th?
The 27th.
That's this year.
23 is on the 26th.
Yeah, so yeah. That's the day after Christmas. Do you want to?
It's going to be a real tough there. Again, it depends on the information that we're going to have to cover. If there's a lot, I think we need to maybe push the meeting back a little bit further in the week.
Just a little bit back further in the week, but
If-
still hold
if-
a Christmas week?
Both the 4th and that one, I think we get close to it. We make that determination then. If we don't have a lot of stuff to go over.
Well, we
during
need
the
to get
meeting-
something on the calendar, so we'll put
Yeah.
something
There
tentatively
you
on.
go.
I see prosecuting attorneys. The 26th? Oh. So you're allowed to go out and exchange your gifts, take them back, save the receipt. On the 26th. Okay, so I guess the courthouse is closed, so we will look for a time later in this week. I think that provides us the direction that we needed for it there, right? Okay, and then the other item that I just want to kind of throw out there for discussion is, and I've invited the county auditor here today to help me with this. I have a request here that I just got delivered yesterday afternoon from the North Franklin Heritage Museum. It was delivered by former Commissioner Cook. And it's for a grant request from the Historical Preservation Funds. I don't like to, I know that a lot of times I don't want to talk about how things were done in different counties and stuff like this, but I think there is better methods out there. And someone that I used to talk a lot about this topic with several years back was Matt, when he tried to attempt to do something in Franklin County that didn't quite materialize. So County Auditor, can you please?
Yeah, and I appreciate this, and I'm glad this came up, because this is another opportunity to improve something in Franklin County. So back in 2016, it was brought to my attention that this fund, it's the commissioners, it's a historical fund. I think it has $171,000 in it. And it's collected through recording for the purposes of preserving our historical past. And it's been used over the years I think we did the steps down at the museum. I think at the Historical Museum, I know the Air Museum. What came to my attention back in 2016 was there was a request and a grant made up in Connell at the American Legion. And it was to put a roof on the American Legion building. And that was brought to my attention. I think the SAO reviewed it at that time. And since that time, it's one of my goals is to move Franklin County forward. I know there's some counties, and I believe Benton was one of them, Clark, that have a process where you have an open call, all these and there's a lot of them that are trying to preserve our past out there. They can make a bid or ask for grants, they explain it, then you have a committee, you score it. And the most important piece that was that drew my attention to the Connell situation, number one, it was a private building, so it was like, I don't know how that worked, but and they had this rationalization for it. But the metal overlay was only $6,000, and I think the bid was, or the grant was 10. And so I'm an auditor, so I'm like, wait a minute, first of all, did it get done, and did they spend all the money on it? And in the end, the SAO looked at it, and the board has a broad authority in these matters. And so my hope is that even before, this is, Connell is one of the very, the museums that is in need of these funds. And and that's what they're intended for. I just would hope that we could put together, I know there's some good models out there where you can let all these little museums know, and these people trying to, all kinds of interesting things where people, I think the Baileys there in Mesa have some stuff that's historical. And there's different ways, if someone has something and they want to get it into the right hands, you advertise it, they write their grant, you score them, and on the back end, you make sure they spent the money where they said they would, or they aren't eligible in the future until they come in and explain to you guys what they did with with the museum money. So that's where I'm at on it, just from a, I mean, I love history. So I think the, the Historical Society down here is really doing some neat stuff, and they're in need of funds too. So I think if they knew we were in an open grant period call, they would probably write a grant request as well. So anyway, that's my 2 cents, and I'm more than willing and ready to do whatever we can from the auditor's standpoint, or any other elected that should play a role. So thanks, Dwayne.
So
Well, I appreciate that the county auditor is offering, the service, because it does take a little bit of time to administer one of these kind of grant programs. But I just, if I could just add to this, I think it's more my role as county administrator to kind of mediate rather than advocate. But I have a real passion for history too, and was very involved in the historical preservation at Benton County. And if you don't put the call out there to the general public, you don't know about all the different historical preservation activities out there. And one of the things you don't want this to become is to where we're just supplanting the income of museums to then they become dependent on that, when there's other, there's other preservation things that maybe 4-H could use, or at Benton County, some quilt museum used it, a whole array of different historical preservation by all sorts of citizens. So if we don't publicize it, the public doesn't know about it. Only a few select people would know about it and petition us for the money. So I'm just thrilled that we got an elected official that is willing to take up this model that is pretty well laid out in a couple other counties. Benton County is up and running. Clark County is up and running. There's a couple others. If you guys would be, we start working on doing a proposal and bring that forward for final consideration when we have a full board here, and do a actual start the program. And now we have to ask the question, because right now Tim provided me this morning that we have 171 in, this is Fund 103, this
Right.
preservation fund, $171,000. We budgeted for 30,000 revenue last year, but this is tied closely with building permits, and so we've collected 19 of the 30, and I don't think that's going to get any better next year, according to all the projections that we've seen. So we need to kind of tighten up a little bit, make sure that we're spending this. This particular request is for 12,000. So I don't know if you want us to
And that's
proceed in.
Is that for Connell's Museum?
This is for, it's North Franklin, so I would assume it's Connell. Let me see, but for the North Franklin Heritage Museum, I believe that's the one that's Connell. Isn't it the old church or something up there?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm getting a nod that it is. So it's probably really important. I don't know if you want me to entertain working this up and then the committee, or should we try to get the committee up and do a publication and
Do
hold
we have
this?
a committee now?
No. But we could,
There is no committee?
No, I tried to do this back in 16, and there was no interest in.
I think we need to get a committee.
There has to be a will of the board to say, and I'm sure this is a worthy request. The question is, when you put the call out, how many others would there be? And I don't know, again, what I liked was you get people that are interested in serving this purpose, and they score all of them based on, literally, my frustration was in 2016 at that American Legion, we put down a tar roof on an old building with, $10,000 of historical funds. And I don't know, it preserved a building, but it's not on the National Registry. So, my point is, it's for an oversight piece, even this, my hope and my request would be that we use this and move, with some purpose, but put this out and see what else shows up, as opposed to, because you have to determine how much you're going to give out on an annual basis, and there's a whole bunch of elements to this, and it sounds like there's quite a bit in there because we haven't been giving it out so maybe initially, I'll seek some guidance. Like I said, I think we're really fortunate. I think back in 16, Dwayne was one of the people I called, and they just have a great program over there that reaches into a lot of little areas. And so
Can I ask you a question? Are you the authority then to do the audit on that American Legion, or do you have that
no,
authority?
it was done. I don't have any. Well, I had the authority to ask the questions. That's all. I'm a question asker. And
Did
what
you
happened
get
was
receipts?
the SAO came in The SAO came in and looked at it, and I think Keith was here at the time. And then all I wanted to do was make sure they spent the money on what they said they would.
And did
Because
you-
if you just send it out there and nobody goes, you got to inspect what you expect. So
Did you get that assurance? Did you get
Oh,
that?
yeah, they did. And they came
Okay.
back and they said, and then they recommended, they actually said, hey, there's some good programs out there, because this was pretty, they said this, it's really, was a lot of latitude with the board. And I know they've given money to the Air Museum, I believe, and I don't know, my point is, for the people, the public that have this, if someone wants to come in and say, hey, you gave that money to the Air Museum, where'd they spend it? Well, nobody's aggregated any of that. And at this point, it would have been the county administrator, I guess, whoever, or you guys, because there was not a body in place to memorialize this stuff and help preserve those, our history. So,
I think one of the disadvantages we have now is there's very limited people that know about it, and so those that know about it will petition us for it, and the general public doesn't, and that's the problem. And so I think, if it's agreeable to you too, what we'll do is we'll bring forward next week enough formation papers. It allows us to put out a call for committee members and put together a small 3-member committee or something like that. That provides enough separation between the grantees and the board, so it kind of depoliticizes it, which is a good thing too. And we'll go from there. And then if you want to ponder about it, we can wait for the decision about whether this should come before or after the formation of the committee. This particular request, we can make that next week when we have a full board, if that's okay with.
A lot of the other funds that we have got in place, the veterans, we have boards. And I think this needs to have a board too. And I think we have enough willingly participants out there in Franklin
I
County.
think you'll get volunteers for it pretty easily.
Yes.
yeah, I mean, my frustration had been, there was ample appearance that this wasn't, it would happen in every 4-year increments. Okay, so my point is that the county can do better so that it doesn't have the appearance of an elected official directly, related to the project. I mean, the first one, I think, the one down here where we rebuilt the steps was kind of the first one that came outside of the cycle. So I just think it's important. We've got this growth here. I completely support us putting something together. And then, because I remember if there's enough interest, you try to get people from in the community as well to weigh in that have interest in historical preservation. So, and I'm certain there's people out there that are interested in that. So,
I think it's a good idea, so I
Okay.
think we should move forward with the committee.
Okay.
Mr. Davidson, anything else?
That's it for my administration issues, I think.
Okay, well, we're back up to public comment. Is there anybody on the phone or anybody in the audience for public comment?
Ari, hang on just one moment, let me check. No callers on the phone.
Anybody for public comment? Seeing none, I guess we're going to have to move into executive session. Mr. Davidson?
Yes, today I have 2 items for executive session. Ask for 10 minutes to do 4230.1101B, which is real estate and site selection, and also RCW 4231.10.1G, evaluate the qualifications for public employee.
And how many minutes for that one?
About 5 minutes also.
So 10
And I'll
minutes
need human resources and prosecuting attorney in the
Are we going to cover the 1B first or the 1G?
1B.
1B, 10 minutes?
Yeah,
Okay.
did,
And we're going into executive session
Right.
at 9:25.
Done.
Okay, we've come out of an executive session, and we're back to regular session. Is there any other business for the good of the county? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.